Hi, I'm Debra, business owner and mom to Gen Z kids on a mission to make sure they get hired and become financially independent as soon as possible. If you're a parent wanting to get your kids hired or a new job seeker desperately trying to get hired, this show is for you, and I am so glad you're here. Okay, welcome back to the show. So in today's episode, I want to discuss artificial intelligence and its role when trying to get hired. So as many of you know, AI is here to stay, and we are all basically now forced to learn how and when to use it properly. So full disclosure, I use it daily. This may surprise you, but when I say I use it daily, I basically rely on it as somewhat of a personal assistant, and it's really convenient. So I'll have the ChatGPT window open on my laptop, and I go back and forth, and I'll ask it questions, have it review some of my written work, helps me come up with podcast topics, sometimes a title. And sometimes I will just ask it a rudimentary question like, hey, I'm having trouble figuring out how to download this file into a folder. Can you help me? And it gives me step-by-step instructions, and it's awesome. So I oftentimes also use it when I'm helping a student with a resume, and I rely on it as kind of a guide for fleshing out some job descriptions sometimes, or making something just sound better or sound smoother. Bottom line, I love it, and it's here to stay. In that same vein, it's also alarming because there will be times when I ask it a detailed question and I will say, oh, this is perfect, thank you. And it will reply and say, you're welcome, Debra. Good luck on your podcast. I think your audience is really going to enjoy the topic this week. Wild. Anyway, okay. So for the most part, I found that all students are very familiar with AI, obviously, and most are quite proficient at using it with a few caveats. And so that's really what I want to focus on today. So there's a couple pitfalls first-time job seekers should be very careful with when it comes to how to use AI and when to use AI. So, for example, AI will often generate data using vocabulary that is maybe out of scope for how you normally speak and how you would normally write something. And so I'll find that, sometimes it'll spit something out and the student will say, well, I don't really understand what that word means. No problem. Then that means you shouldn't be listing that word on your resume anywhere. So I'm going to use a phrase, business acumen. AI loves this phrase, and it's a pretty common phrase in the business world on resumes, period. But I find that students don't really understand what that means, which is totally fine. So then in that case, you would want AI to recreate the sentence or the paragraph in a different tone for you. So you literally can go back and say, hey, I love this paragraph, but can you recreate it in a tone of a college student? And you will likely get a paragraph better suited to your voice. Another example is it may generate a job description that is too high level for what you've actually done. And so you may not be able to properly explain it when asked about it in an interview. And you want to make sure that you are confidently able to explain and describe every detail on your resume. So you don't want to get yourself in a pickle where a hiring manager is asking you a question about something that you're noting on your resume and you're like, deer in a headlight because you don't really understand what the heck you wrote on your resume. So don't use it exclusively. You want to use it kind of as just like a guide or as an assistant, but not to start from scratch and create the whole resume for you, which leads me to my next discussion. And this is a big one. This is the biggest pitfall that I'm seeing. So I'm seeing this actually all over TikTok, that students are relying completely on AI to generate their entire resume. And all I have to say is never, ever, ever, ever use it to produce your entire resume start to finish, ever. I can't be more adamant about this. What I mean by this is, you don't want to just copy and paste some details into ChatGPT and ask AI to create a resume for you. Now, I say this, and this sounds like, well, of course not. But I'm here to tell you that many students are in fact doing this, and it's a real problem. And here's why it's a real problem. So first of all, some larger companies are actually using software to scan for AI and detect its use throughout the resume. And most people are using AI in some capacity throughout on their resume, not throughout the resume. And that is acceptable and honestly kind of expected. But you don't want your resume showing up as completely AI generated. That's basically a kiss of death. It will probably sound robotic and inauthentic, and employers are likely to dismiss it even before you have a chance to interview. But more importantly, if you rely on AI completely, you may get a resume that is completely incorrect. And if you don't take the time to proofread it, it is a real issue. All right, so I want to pause and give a bit of a disclaimer here. I started my company because I saw a real disconnect when it comes to kids graduating from college and actually launching into careers. So many just don't know how to bridge that gap and do a resume and present themselves as professionals to get hired. It's very, very difficult. So I have reviewed countless entry-level resumes in my career, and student after student doesn't seem to know how to sell themselves on paper, my own children included. So I am in this with you, and I have skin in this game. So if I saw my own kids making these mistakes, I would absolutely be intervening. So that's why I'm sharing this today with you on the show. Here's my story, or my lesson of the day, should you say. So I recently reviewed a resume for a student that was applying to internships. And at first glance, the resume seemed fine. The layout was better than most. It lacked experience and enough content, but honestly, that is so par for the course with entry-level resumes. That is kind of the gold standard where they all fall short. So it had room for improvement, but it wasn't tragic. But one small thing caught my attention at the top that made me pause because I thought it was odd. She had typed her phone number and included the country code. So in other words, 1 plus the area code, then the phone number. And that seemed really odd because it's just not something that anyone ever does. And it didn't make me overly concerned at the time. I just kind of filed it under things that make you go, like that was weird. But as I got to the bottom of the resume where her education was listed, this is where I was stopped dead in my tracks. She had listed herself as an advanced doctoral candidate in a very specific program. And it was so odd because I knew she was currently in a bachelor's degree program, and I knew the school she was at. So I thought to myself, is this school offering a bachelor's and doctorate program concurrently? Never heard of that, but you know what? Well, who am I to say? So I Googled the school, Googled the program, and sure enough, the school did not even offer this program as a doctorate program. And what I later learned is that this particular program is so specific and so unique, and if I'm being honest, I've never even heard of this degree, that only 7 universities in the entire country offer the degree she was noting on the resume. So again, very, very rare. Now, this shocked me because, again, hasn't graduated with a bachelor's degree yet. She's seeking internships, has no real job experience doing anything. So how could she possibly be a doctoral candidate? These things come with, master's degrees, typically, 5 to 10 years of professional experience. None of this was on her resume, so it just didn't jive, and it just was so shocking to see. And this student is exceptional. She's an honor graduate, and she's definitely diligent and hardworking. So when I asked her why she had listed her education so inaccurately, I was so surprised by her response. She said, I had AI generate my entire resume and I didn't read it. Oh my God. Oh my God. This was a resume she was using and she never read it for accuracy. So this blew my mind. But this also explained the use of the country code in her phone number because it was obvious that AI had done that too because it was just so clunky, so to speak. So I just can't imagine relying on a tool to do something for you and then not double checking it. But I'm here to tell you that if she's making this mistake, I guarantee you many more students are as well. And I have to tell you also that anybody that is using a resume with inaccurate data to apply to anything will be eliminated because those things will literally raise red flags everywhere. And I guarantee you that future employers are going to look into it the same way I did. And then if they find out that you're a liar, they're just going to throw your resume in the trash. So it's nuts. It's nuts to use AI to completely do your work, and it's nuts not to review it. So don't do it. Now, I know that students and this generation typically doesn't listen to podcasts, so they're probably not ever going to hear any of this information. But parents, it's up to us. This is such a reminder that they still need us to guide them, even when they're in their last year of college. unless you want them living at home forever. Now, again, I always say I never speak in absolutisms. There are plenty of students that are slaying the job market all on their own, and that is awesome. But what I have found in my experiences, they are 1%ers. The 99%ers are everyone else whose kids are floundering, going, I don't know what I want to do. I don't know how to apply. I don't know how to do a resume. My own kids included. We are all in this together. So anyway, I hope you found value in this episode. And if so, please share it with your friends. I have also included my email in the show notes if you have any topics you would like to hear about the show or on the show. I have also included a link to my free new job seeker starter kit. Just click on the link in the show notes to grab that as well. And in the meantime, I will talk to you next week.